Silver Age comics are back. Welcome back to another video. This really popped when I saw it. That to me is a monster increase. Again, this book got hot. This book is ready to go higher.
So let's jump right into it.
We are back today with another statue review from Diamond Select Toys. Without further ado, let's get into the review. What is going on YouTube? This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles, and thank you for joining me for another Hot 10 breakdown of the week, where I take the 10 hottest comics according to the Key Collector app, and I break them down for you, letting you know which out there I'd be buying at these prices, and of course which I'd be staying away from. But before we get started in the video, like always, I want to remind you guys, if you're not a current sub of the channel, do me a favor, hit that sub button for me. But most importantly, smash that like button. It helps the algorithm out, and of course check out all the new merch I have for sale down below. You will not regret it. With that said, let's get into these books. Starting off the list this week at number 10 is a Silver Age gem. It is a copy of Batman number 227 in this iconic cover by the late great Neil Adams, a throwback to Detective Comics number 31, and a CGC 7.0 just sold last week for $960, up 24% over that average. Then we had a Slab 4.5 sale for $450, up 17% over the average. This is one of the most iconic covers out there of all time. One of my favorites done by Neil Adams. This and of course Batman number 251 are everybody's favorites, really. With that said, I'm 100% a buyer of this book. It's a classic issue, a classic cover, and still pretty cheap in like a 5.0 or under. And once you start getting in the higher grades, it does become a little expensive, but other than that, it's 100% a book I want to own. At number 9 this week, and back on the list, is a copy of Conan the Barbarian number 1 and some more Silver Age goodness. Now, of course, this is the first appearance of Conan the Barbarian, and a CGC 8.5 just sold the prior week for $646, up 6% over the average. Then not only that, guys, we had a CGC 7.5 sale for only $500, up 16% over the average. Now, this book has been on the list before. I said it back then. I know they're not going to come out with another Conan Barbarian movie. I don't think it'll do too well at the box office, I'm not going to lie to you, but regardless, to get a high-grade copy, a very fine or a very fine plus for only $500, I do think that is a good deal for a first appearance of a major character they've used before. Maybe down the road sometime, if Conan becomes a little bit more popular, they'll put him in a movie or in a show or something. Right now, I think $500 is a decent price to get in on a high-grade copy of this one. Finding its way back on the list at number 8 is a copy of Doctor Strange number 1, and the first solo title officially featuring Doctor Strange. Now, we had, of course, Doctor Strange number 169 was technically his first solo title coming over from Strange Tales. Regardless, we had a CGC 9.8, a complete copy, perfect copy of this book, sell last week for $2,639, up a whopping 26% over the average. Then we had a CGC 7.5 sale for only $150, up 33% over the average. Now, to me, if I'm going to spend a crazy amount of money on this book, I want to own Strange Tales 110. That is the true first appearance of Doctor Strange, even though we all hate that cover. But I got to be honest, for a 7.5 for only $150, I think that's a pretty good deal. Like, if I could find one for like $100 or less, that's more up my alley. Right now, I'm saying no, only because I'd rather own those other two books, Strange Tales 110 or Doctor Strange 169. But if you could find a cheap copy of this book, I'm all over it. Dropping down to number 7 this week is a copy of Moon Knight number 1 and the first ongoing series featuring Moon Knight and, of course, his origin story, and a CGC 9.4 just sold last week for only $90, up 5% over the average. But we also had a CGC 9.8 newsstand copy sell for $500, up 13% over the average. Hey, if you want to spend under $100 in a book, I'm all for it on whatever book you guys want to buy. I'll always tell you that. But if you're going to spend $500 on a newsstand 9.8, I got to tell you, I'd rather own a copy of Werewolf by Night number 32, his true first appearance. And I got to be honest, that book is taking a beating and the cover is a million times better. That's the book I'd be buying, and I'd be staying away from this one. At number 6 this week is some more Silver Age goodness, another first appearance. It is a copy of Avengers number 57 and the first appearance of Vision, and a CGC 6.0 just sold last week for $425, $25, up 5% over the average. Then we had a CGC 5.0 sale for $326, up 10% over the average. I think everybody thinks the Vision is going to show up in the MCU again after, of course, being killed by Thanos in Infinity War. Regardless, guys, I am a buyer of this book. I think it's fairly priced for the first appearance of a major character for the Avengers. I'd definitely be spending about $400 or less if I can get a nice clean copy of this one. One of the best red covers from the Silver Age. At number 5 this week is What Else? A copy of G.I. Joe Real American Hero #1 and the first team appearance of G.I. Joe in comics. And a CGC 9.6 just sold last week for $330, up 10% over the average. Then we had a CGC 9.4 sale for $285, up a whopping 35% over the average. Wherever we're talking about 1980s nostalgia, I'm always going to tell you guys, for the most part, I'd rather own the vintage toys, complete mint on card, or possibly even loose than some of these #1 issues in their own comics. I think the toys are the better buy here when referring to these books. But hey, if you want to spend $300 something on a high grade copy of this one, I'm certainly not going to stop you. But for me, it's a thumbs down. At number 4 this week is probably the biggest first appearance in the 1990s. It is a copy of Spawn #1 and the first appearance of Spawn. And of course, we had a CGC 9.8 sell last week for $180, up 9% over the average. I tell you guys this all the time, this book is not worth investing in. However, if you are a Spawn fan and you're following him since the beginning, you probably want to own this book, and I'm suggesting a 9.8 only, just because they're so cheap. A lot of copies out there, but if you're going to buy this book or anything more than around $100 to $150, I think it's too much money to spend. There are better books out there, but if you love the character, you must own the book. At the 3 spot this week is some more 1980s goodness. It is a copy of Transformers #1 and the first team appearance of the Autobots and the Decepticons, and a CGC 9.8 just sold last week for $1,460, but only up 1% over the average. I'm going to say ditto to what I said for G.I. Joe #1. I love the toys growing up. I know they're super expensive to try to find these G1 toys now, mint in box. If you could find them, they're crazy expensive. That's what I'd be buying over this issue in the 9.8. Hey, if you could find this book for under $100, if you want to add to the collection, I'm all for it, but there's no way in hell I'm spending all that money on a super high grade copy of this one. It is just not worth it. But hey, if you could find a G1 Optimus Prime still sealed in a box, that's what I'd be buying. Coming in at number 2 this week is the Dazzler. No, it's not X-Men 130. It is a copy of the Dazzler #1, the premiere issue of Dazzler's first self-titled series, and a CGC 9.6 just sold last week for $150, up 10% over the average. Then we had a CGC 9.0 sale for only $80, up 10% over the average. If I'm not buying X-Men #130, I'm certainly not buying Dazzler #1. That makes no sense to me. If you want to buy the first appearance, that's always the better buy. But hey, I'm just saying, don't buy this book right here, right now, because there's so much hype behind Taylor Swift taking on that role as the Dazzler in Deadpool 3. If it doesn't happen, it's going to go right back down. But somebody brought up a great point to me. They're collecting runs, so maybe somebody's collecting an X-Men run and they have to have 130 in their Claremont run. Hey, if that's the case, you got to buy it. Just try to find the cheapest copy to get in your collection. That is the way to do it. And at the top spot this week, and after a brief hiatus, it is back on the list and at the top spot. It is a copy of Wolverine #1 and the first solo Wolverine title, and this iconic cover by the great Frank Miller. And we just had a CGC 9.8 just sell last week for $725, up 8% over the average. We also had a CGC 9.2 sale of $180, up 16% over the average. I say this to you guys all the time. I love this book. I think it's a classic cover, but I don't want to spend a lot of money to own it. That's all I'm saying. I had somebody reach out to me via comment saying, you know what, this book is a great book. How about if somebody really wants to own this book and you're putting it down? I get what you guys are saying. I'm not saying it's a great book. It's an iconic cover. I just don't want you guys to spend a ton of money to own it. You can still find great deals on this book for $100 or less. There's no reason to go out and get a super high grade copy of this one. It is an iconic cover. It is a book that should be owned, but buyer beware. Don't spend a lot of money on this book because it is not worth it, but it definitely should be owned. That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoy this one. I'm happy to see some Silver Age books back on this list. A few copper, a few bronze, Regardless, it is now time for my best buy of the week, and it's got to be a copy of Batman number 227 in this throwback to Detective Comics number 31, one of the best covers from the Silver Age, right before the Bronze Age started. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Again, I want to thank the members of the channel, my mighty mafia. Thank you for always supporting me. Look out for our member giveaways, and of course our 6,000 sub giveaway. It's coming soon. Hope you guys enjoy the video. It's Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles saying thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.